You're listening to Perfectly Normal. This is a podcast where I bring you love, courage, and connection. I'm your host, Michelle Quay. I'm a confidence and leadership coach where I work with negative self-talkers to get them to believe in the talent that they have in reaching their full potential in both personal and professional life. I'm the founder of Elevate Life Coaching. It's a coaching and seminar company. Welcome to the show. Hi, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode. Holidays. This is going to be a big topic for holidays. So every year, we have a large family gathering or larger family gathering because, my brothers who lives locally in Southern California, but my sister lives up in the Northern California. And every year, either Thanksgiving or Christmas, they will come home to celebrate with all of us together. So I'm the first generation immigrant from Taiwan, and we don't have a large, I take it back. Our family is actually growing nowadays. So every year, there's a new addition to the family. So this year we have a new addition to the family. My brother actually just adopted a dog. So the other day we were trying to decide what is the name of the dog. So we decided to name the dog Mochi, Japanese mochi, those squishy, rice sticky candy-like things. So we decided to call the dog Mochi. Mochi is only 6 weeks old, but very tiny, still a puppy. But we have him in the family, so we wanted to welcome Mochi into the family. And this is something. Well, look at my cat actually just walked by my setup here, and this is the benefit of working from home. So you get to have all kinds of visitor when you're doing the podcasting or when you're doing your meeting. Your pets start to walking in behind you, or people walking behind you, and there's all sorts of activity going on. And sometimes, I remember one of my meeting. It was a very important meeting, and suddenly my mom walked in, and she wanted to ask me a question. And then so what I did was I'm like waving her, I'm in the meeting, I'm signaling her. But sometimes, they don't realize what you're doing in the room. They just think that, well, you're in the room, let me just go ask you a question. So it's a fine line between having a home office and on your business hour and actually doing business. So I had to set up that boundary really carefully, really quick. 2 years ago when I started to bring my business at home. So going back to the holidays, so typically we have a large gathering in my house, in my home. They would come home, my brother and sister would bring their family to come home, and we sit around and we have a large traditional, well, not traditional for us because we actually adapted to the Western culture. So we celebrate Christmas, we celebrate Thanksgiving, but in Taiwan, we never used to do that. Like when I was growing up, we don't celebrate Christmas, we don't celebrate Thanksgiving. That's not the thing for us. Our thing was the Chinese New Year. So every year we have the Lunar Year. So every year we celebrate like a big fest at our home. So, but we came to this country, and ever since my nieces were born, we decided to go with the kids, and we started to adapt and living more of the Western style of celebrating every year. And this year, it's kind of very different for everybody, isn't it? So just a couple of days ago, California announced that we have a curfew, even though, I'm kind of confused because the curfew actually stated that you are supposed to be at home, or the restaurants, all the non-essential will be closing at 10 o'clock. So from the hour of 10 o'clock till 6 o'clock in the morning. And I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, wait, am I going to be out between the hours of 10 o'clock till 6 o'clock? I think I'm already asleep. I'm probably in my REM state of sleeping cycle. So I highly doubt between the hour of 10 o'clock till 2 o'clock, it's going to have any impact in my life. But nonetheless, we have a curfew, and there's actually traveling advisory that was released that in kind of just advise people to minimize the traveling if possible during this holiday, this upcoming Thanksgiving holiday. And by the time I release this episode, it will be released on Wednesday. So it's actually tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Thanksgiving, and happy holiday. Those of you who are listening, who's tuning in, and you're celebrating Thanksgiving, I wanted to share my deepest gratitude and appreciation to you, because without you, supporting me and listening to my podcast, and maybe even giving me some review on the iTunes or Spotify, those of you who are really, really here, listen to it, and just celebrating me, I really, really, truly appreciate you. I know when I first started this whole podcast, I had that negative self-talk. I kid you not. My negative self-talk never gone away. I have a better way of controlling it. I have a better way of navigating through my life, and just kind of put it in my backseat so that it's there, but I'm not being affected by it. But honestly, I'm still a human being. So I still experience those negative self-talk that I teach people on how to navigate, you know, not eliminate. I always caution my clients. I say, it's not eliminating. We're not getting rid of it. We're actually making it to work for us. And every time I say that to people, people are like, huh? Don't you want to get rid of it? Well, the reality is that you can never get rid of your negative self-talk. The self-talk is always going to be there. But there's so many tools and so many things that I can share with you, or skills I can share with you, that will help you to minimize the impact or the influence that negative self-talk has on you, so that you can actually have that state of just being in the flow and self-motivated. And this is a real conversation I actually just had earlier with a friend of mine. We were just having brunch. We were grabbing brunch. I don't have a lot of social gathering nowadays, but occasionally, I do meet up with some close friends that I trust, and that, we wanted to still have that interpersonal connection. So I met up with this friend, and I was telling her that, a lot of I lost my train of thought. I gotta go back and listen to what I just said. Uh, yeah, so I met up with her, and the reason we met up was because we were talking about this whole negative self-talk, this imposter syndrome. And I keep telling people that there's no way that you can eliminate it. And the idea is actually to, how do you manage it, or how do you make it work for you, so that you're not influenced by all these emotions, all these mental thoughts, and busy and clusters and ideas that you have that just doesn't motivate you at all. So what I was talking to her about was, she was telling me that a couple of months ago during the pandemic, so Tony Robbins had actually a big virtual event. You know how Tony Robbins usually have the live and huge audience, and people spending lots of money just to be in that one couple of days of lectures. So this year, Tony Robbins, just like any one of us, got affected by this pandemic. Guess what? Tony Robbins is a human too. So I thought that was hilarious, because you usually imagine Tony Robbins in the live setting, right? Suddenly Tony Robbins get a little box just like you and I, and we get to see him virtually. So anyway, this friend of mine decided, she got lucky because a friend of her actually invited and put together a group of people, and they all went up to a cabin. They rented a cabin, and just close friends together, and they all spent 4 days together watching the 3-day virtual event by Tony Robbins. And she was telling me that, whenever she go into Tony Robbins event, she feel motivated, she feel pumped, and she feel energized. And by the time that the event is over, she's ready to plow away all the negativity and start ready to make shit happen. And then what happened is few days later, that motivation start dropping, and that motivation just kind of deteriorate. And this is very, very typical. And this is something that I observed over the years, that a lot of people will spend tons of money and signing up to lectures, going to places, and taking all these expensive lessons. And what do you get? You get a moment of spur of energy that you feel very motivated. You feel you're ready to rock the world. And then what happened is that motivation just kind of just fade away. So you start finding yourself in this perpetuate cycle of, I need more in order to keep my motivation up. So all of that, I wanted to go back to, how do you being? And this is something that I have learned on my own journey, where I'm like everybody. I used to go to seminar. I used to listen to all these spiritual teaching, and because I wanted to learn. I wanted to listen to all these spiritual teacher, and how they're able to provide insights in all these challenges and facing all these struggles that we may have. So I'm like I am the kind of person who would spend tons of money. I don't go see Tony Robbins, I go see Eckhart Tolle. So I remember spending thousands of dollars going down to Huntington, to Orange County here in California, to see Eckhart Tolle. And it was a 4-day event. It was so beautiful, so amazing, great experience. And then I realized that those are just external things. So we keep looking, we keep searching for those motivations that others are providing us. And yet, we don't spend the time to look at that. How can I work? How can I take their teaching, take their insight, take all these information I'm receiving? How can I internalize it to actually put them into practice, so that I can actually self-motivate? So the key word here is self-motivation. So you no longer need, Tony Robbins. Great. Tony Robbins is standing in front of me. I wouldn't give a shit. And not that, I don't like Tony Robbins. I do like Tony Robbins. I think, so he graduated from Landmark. It's a great coaching program, great school. And there's a lot of people that I know, they all went through the same program. They're amazing coaches. They are amazing. And the stuff that, they're teaching, it's real. It really worked. But no matter who you go to, the idea is, how do you turn it into a self-motivation, rather than buying the ticket, going to the seminar, and just sit there for 3 days, and you feel motivated, and then gone, poof, that motivation just went away. So how do you turn that into a real practice? That is what I focus on. So what I focus on is really teaching people how to be. And this is what my friend had described to me earlier when we were meeting for brunch. And she had described this internal light, like that just beaming through, no matter where she goes, whether she's being an actress, whether she's being a coach, no matter what setting she is in, there's always that light that's inside of her heart. It's just kind of shiny, shiny object. There's shiny object inside of her, inside her heart. And so then that is your being. So how do we use that being? How do you use that inspiration that's already built inside of you? How do we use it and put it into practice? So, but, so with all that, I kind of wanted to go back to talk about the holiday, because the way that you are being has a lot to do with how you respond to the holiday, the idea of the holiday. So today's topic is really about how to survive through the holidays, especially when you are alone. So I think back to the years when I had to, spend holidays, not in the sense of physically by myself, but emotionally, I was sad, I was depressed, I was lonely, I was isolated. Reason being, a lot of time when I go to party, people invite me to holiday party, or we have like social gathering, holiday Christmas party. We have Friendsgiving. Every time I attend those events, it just kind of reinforces the idea of you are alone. And that idea of you are alone, everyone else, you look around, everyone else are either they show up with their significant others, or they're about to get married, and they have someone that they love who can hand them a coat. And this is something that I was really triggered by, especially in the old days, when every time during the holiday you see your friends walking in with their significant others, and when it's cold, it's really cold, what do? They carry their coat. And just the simple gesture of someone carrying your coat, or someone caring for you, oh my gosh, that was a lot of emotional trigger for me. And it kind of just reinforces my own idea of you are alone. And not to mention all these environmental influences, right? So it's cold, it's wintertime. Of course, anyone will want to hold on to something. If it's not our blanket, if it's not our comforter, and maybe it's the fire that's in burning your fireplace, and something warm, something cozy that's always remind us of the holiday. And if we can't have all that, then it kind of reinforces again that idea of you are alone, you are supposed to be sad, you are supposed to be depressed, right? This is not the holiday. And our I beliefs around how holiday means people gather together, they're sharing all their year's wins and lose, big changes in life, small changes in life. And of course, your grandma has to come in here and ask you, when are you going to get married? Right? So again, your grandma is doing a great job reminding you how you are alone. So all these external effects, or the social interaction that we have with others, are constantly reminding us that holiday is not really meant for people who are alone or who are single. So it becomes very challenging if you are like me, who's still single, and to be able to like kind of just feeling okay and not being emotionally triggered. Especially for me, one of the big emotional triggers I was saying is just by the gesture of how someone else is caring for another person. I'm like, dude, can't you do that at home? But again, that is all in my head. It's all around the beliefs that I have around how holiday supposed to be. Holiday is supposed to be something warm, something cozy, something that people laugh and maybe even cry, but they celebrate together. Or sometimes, if you really don't like a relative, they come over, you might even, end up finishing the holiday with a fight. But regardless of how that holiday goes, there's always that interaction, and it's all part of our life. So we have this picture in our head, or image of how a holiday should be, already set up, right? So we have this image of how we paint that holiday picture, how we want it to be perfect, how we want it to, you know what, grandma, I'm not going to get married anytime soon, so stop asking me questions. You have all these ideas and all these thinking ahead of time, and how does that make you feel? So this is something. This is a process I always take my clients over. So every thinking, every thoughts that you have will come associate with an emotion, and people will be like, I actually had a client who told me that, I'm just all in my head, I'm just all thinking, I don't feel anything. Well, if you think about it, it's not entirely true, right? There's always a feeling that comes surface when you have that idea. When you have an idea that holiday, think about holiday, that just think about holiday for a minute. When you hear the word holiday, what are you thinking? Santa Claus, maybe presents, the relative that you don't want to see. Maybe it's a mother-in-law knocking on your door. There's always these thoughts and images and visions that you associate just to the word holiday. And when you have those visions, when you have that image of your mother-in-law knocking on your door, what's happened? You get nervous. Well, it's my mother-in-law. She's always like that. How do you feel about her? Like if you were to go and describe deeper on how you feel about her, it may be angry, it may be frustration. She wouldn't listen. Just like, my grandma who wouldn't stop asking me, when are you going to get married? Um, my grandma passed, by the way, years ago. She passed on a really good. She had a really good life, and one day she just didn't wake up, and she actually went to the backyard. She was doing some yard work in the morning, and then she went back, took a shower, she went to bed, and she never woke up. And she was in her 90s already, so she had a really good life. But yeah, and by the way, my grandma never asked me when you're gonna get married. But that's not my point. So whenever you have this idea, there's always an emotion that comes afterwards. So with the holiday, if we know that this is the pattern that we are having your thoughts, and that idea will generate a feeling or an emotion for us, then what can we do to change that idea, right? So instead of thinking about how your mother-in-law makes you so frustrated, what if, another idea would be, what if I just see her as a human being? Or maybe I can just see her as air. That's a very mean thing to say, right? So, but that those are just example of how you can come up with a different way of thinking. And when you do that, immediately you'll notice how much lighter your heart would feel. And it may not be like, oh, you know what? I'm going to jump out and open the door and hug my mother in law when I see her coming through the door. It may not be that. It may be as small as, you know what? I know you're here. I'm okay with it. I'm just going to deal with it. Hopefully just a couple of days and then you'll be gone. Right. So just a different feeling coming out with that idea of, you know what? I'm just going to see her as a human, and that's all. She just want to be happy. She just want to be, with their family, and that's all she want. That's all she's asking. She just want to be human. And so that's how typically you would deal with any situation when you notice you're sad, when you feel depressed, when you feel lonely, when you feel isolated. It's all because we're all dwelling on an idea of I am alone. And if you don't think, if you can come up with a different way of seeing I am alone, then it would be a different feeling that you would have. Maybe it's more neutral, maybe it's happier, maybe you feel more lighthearted. So any thoughts, any idea, you can always come up with a new one. And that new idea, that new thought is going to support you to have a different feeling. So that's how you typically shift your own mindset. And you can do this anytime without my help. But you probably have to practice it a couple of times, because initially, when I was first thinking about this, I am alone, and that was really it kind of just stuck to my head. And I was a firm believer, because all these people reminded me that, or keep reinforcing that idea. So I had a hard time shifting that. But once it can be done, and you have to be patient. It does take some practices. So what I would recommend is actually start keeping a journal. And this is something I share with all my clients. I said, you know what, if you notice that you are experiencing a lot of judgment around whether it's yourself or others, one of the most effective and easiest way that you can start catching your own idea is by keeping a judgment journal. So what goes into the judgment journal? The judgment journal will consist of any thoughts that you have throughout the day. Anytime you hear yourself judging someone or judging yourself, or something that's very negative, something that it doesn't feel good, write it down. Write it down in your judgment journal. Once you write it down, then you're going to go back and look at that sentence, look at what you wrote down, and come up with two different ways of writing it again. So you're going to come up with two different ways, and the two different ways need to be either neutral something that doesn't sound, very positive, something that doesn't sound very negative, something that just it's a fact, a neutral statement. And then you come up with a different, maybe a second way. Maybe it's more positive way of saying the same thing. So instead of saying I'm not good enough, what if you say, well, I'm pretty good with changing batteries. That could be a positive, but you get the idea, right? So one is more neutral, and the second way is you can write it in a more positive way. So when you start doing that, you start catching yourself. What is your pattern? And when do you have those judgments? And what are some of the triggers? So those are the elements that you can keep track. And over time, and I'm not saying that, once you start doing this, it's going to be magic's going to happen, right? So no, you actually have to put it in practice, and it does take over time to start seeing your patterns, start seeing, noticing what and how you've been thinking and how you've been behaving. So start a judgment journal. Now, I want to end this podcast by sharing a couple of tips with you that you can use to survive through the holidays, especially if you're single and you're spending this holiday alone, or, a lot of us are actually not having a traditional Thanksgiving dinner. Because we probably all decided that you are just going to celebrate it with your immediate family, which is great, which is fine. So, but if you do have those emotions where you're feeling sad, depressed, lonely, or feeling isolated, here are three things that you can do to alleviate a lot of those emotions. Okay. So the first one is label your emotions. So a lot of us, we feel what we feel, but we don't label it. And I know we spoke about the labeling process because, a lot of judgment is about labeling, right? We put a label on some people, and we put a label on the things we try to understand it. Now, the key word is when you label something, you begin to understand it. And same thing with our mind. So if you want your mind to understand what is it that you are feeling, you got to put a label on it so that it makes sense for the mind. So if you're feeling sad, label it as sad. I'm feeling sad. And what you do is when you put the label on it, you identified it and you acknowledge that it is here. I am feeling sad. I am feeling depressed. I am feeling lonely. This is what I am feeling. Okay. And then you're going to find the second tip is to find a different way to make you feel less of what you're feeling. So it may not be, if you're feeling sad, you said that I'm feeling sad. The idea is not that you want to make yourself suddenly to feel happy, right? That's the other extreme. And that's a big jump from being sad. If you are sad, let's take a little tiny baby step. What would make you feel less sad? What can you do to make yourself feel less sad? Maybe it's just wrap yourself around with a big comforter and sit by the fireplace and light up some candles or light up your fireplace and just be in that space and be with your sadness. And maybe that's all you can do just to feel a little less sad, right? So find a different way to make you feel less, whatever that feeling is, less isolated. Maybe you need to call a friend, maybe set up a Zoom meeting or a Zoom party. Or this is an idea that one of my friends actually offered. And she said she have used this before where she was alone, she's single, and during the holiday, it's just not very happy. So she decided to throw herself a pity party. So the pity party is, you invite your friends over and we're all pity together, and you can actually create a lot of activity that you can play together. And the other day, I actually had this idea. So I'm actually doing a Christmas virtual party, and you're all invited, by the way. So if you follow me on Facebook at Life Coaching by Elevate, Yeah, life coaching by Elevate. See, I always have to think about because I have Instagram account at Elevate Life Coach, and then I have my Facebook at Life Coaching by Elevate. So I always get the two reverse, and I always have to think about which one am I sending you to. So I'm actually having a virtual Christmas party. It's going to be on December 18th at 6:30 p.m., and we're meeting virtually. Now, this party is going to be a white elephant gift exchange. So, if you're interested to participate, I want you to, first of all, send me an email so I can send you the link to our party. And my email would be michelle.quay, Kuei, at gmail.com. And just send me an email and just let me know that you're interested to come to the virtual Zoom Christmas party. This is my client appreciation party, the end of the year party. So I invited my clients and friends, a couple of close friends, and we're going to do a white elephant gift exchange. So don't ask me how, but don't worry about it. What you're going to do is you're going to bring a $20 value gift with you to the Zoom party. You're going to have it available. And when you get to the party, I will let you know how we're going to play the game. So that's something in my plan this upcoming week that I am going to make an announcement on my Facebook, and you're all invited. All of my listeners and all my followers are invited. So you're all invited to come to the Christmas party. It's a just remember to bring a $20 value of a gift so that we can all exchange. And the other thing is that you have to be willing to send it, to ship it to the person who end up having your gift. Okay. So if you're okay with that and you want to participate, then shoot me an email, michelle.quei, Kuei, at gmail.com. And just let me know that you want to come, and I will send you the Zoom link to come join the party. It's free, by the way. We don't call it Christmas party if I charge you, right? So it's free. Yes, come. So the other day I was actually thinking about, well, it's a Zoom party and a lot of us actually feel alone. And so how do I want to do this? So there's a couple of games that I thought about and that we can actually play during the Christmas party. So, you can definitely throw yourself a pity party if you want during the holiday and just invite all your friends to come and celebrate with you. If that being alone or being feeling isolated is generating a lot of emotions for you. So think of different way that would make you feel less blank. And that blank, you can build it in isolation, lonely, depressed, sad, any emotions that you have and that you have labeled it on the first step. So that's the second tip, right? So first tip was to label your emotion. Second tip is find a way to feel less about the emotion that you are feeling. And then the last tip that I wanted to share with you is to change the way that you think about the holiday. And ultimately, right, that was the main focus of how we're feeling and why we're feeling it, because there's that underlying beliefs around the holiday. How should the holiday be? What do I need to do to celebrate the holiday? And what do I need to feel around the holiday? Why am I not feeling this? So there's a lot of judgment based on the beliefs around the holiday that we have. So change the way that you think about holidays. Holiday, if you look at it, I know a lot of my friends actually had a different thought about the holiday. They flip through the calendar. Oh, just another day. Holiday is just another day. That's another way of looking at it, right? I mean, when I was growing up, we never celebrated Thanksgiving. We never celebrated Christmas. It was completely okay. And so now that we're so used to, holidays, I think about Thanksgiving, I think about Christmas, and suddenly it becomes a big thing for us. So it's always around the mindset around what we believe in and how that beliefs has shaped the way that we are behaving. So the last tip again would be to change the way that you think about the holiday. Now, to summarize today, so we had talked about how do you survive through the holiday if you're single or alone, or you're like me, we're kind of being told to stay at home and just do a holiday celebration with the immediate family? Then here are the 3 tips that you can use and apply to get you through these holidays. We have Thanksgiving coming up, we have Christmas coming up, we have New Year coming up, and only the universe know, or the God knows, when the vaccine is going to be available. So, how do you get through this moment? 3 tips. First one is understand your emotion. So label your emotion. Number 2 is to find a different way to make you feel less of what you are feeling from number 1. Number 3, have a different way of looking at holiday. Change your beliefs that you have around the holiday. Can you celebrate holiday maybe in March? Sure, why not? Maybe March, we'll call it the post-pandemic holiday, right? Wouldn't that be cool? So change your thinking around the holiday, and therefore will lead to a different feeling, and therefore will lead to a different action or behavior, or the way that you feel and go through the holiday season. It would be different. And try it out. And if having a hard time believing what I just said, then just give it a try. See what you get out of it. There's nothing. I kind of imagine myself going to a tasting of all these dessert in the flea market. Flea market, right? It's flea market. And you go through it, or farmer's market. Farmer's market is more like, I miss the farmer's market. So you go through the farmer's market, and there's all these little different things and that you can taste, you can try it, right? So the idea is you go around and you look at all these different coaching package and teachings and ideas and programs, and you find what best suited for you. Okay. So you take a little bite, and if you like it, great. Maybe have more of it. Or if you don't like it, move on to a different program, and until you find the one that resonates with you, that speaks to your heart, and that you actually believe that you can use it for the rest of your life. And coaching, it's not a relationship that is going to just you have one bite and that's it, magic just happened, and you cure you eliminated all these beliefs. The coaching is really a long-term relationship. And the long-term relationship, it's not with the coach, by the way. The long-term relationship is really within yourself. So I can teach you something, I can share my insights, I can take out stuff on my toolbox, and I can share with you, but it's up to you to actually put it into practice. So with this podcast, I wanted to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and I will see everyone when we come back after the holiday. Enjoy and be safe. Have a happy Thanksgiving. And thank you so much for all your support. Don't forget to leave me a review in Apple, iTunes, or Spotify, or any platform that you are tuning in to listen to my podcast. Bye, everyone. Hey, thanks for listening. In order for this conversation to continue, I would like to invite you to join my private Facebook group, The Confidence Lab for Remarkably Courageous People. This is where we can continue this conversation to bring more love, courage, and connection in helping each other and supporting each other in moving forward in our lives. If you found value in this show, I would appreciate if you can give me a rating on iTunes or Spotify, or simply share this show with a friend who may benefit from hearing it. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. If you'd like to learn more about what I do as a coach, please visit my website at elevatelifecoaching.org or shoot me an email. See you on the next show.